From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Fox 8 studios in New Orleans, this is the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Fazende, riding shotgun as he does each and every podcast. This is Andre Johnson
Jr.
Not forget the Jr. It's very important. Remember the JR at the end of the name. Before we get into today's content, be sure to like, to share, to rate, to review. If you're watching us on YouTube, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Get the bell notification for when we drop that fire content. Also, hello to the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. Glad you have found us here. Wednesday in the city of New Orleans, Andre. I hope this week is going great for you. I understand there's been a lot going on in the city. There's a lot going on with the Saints. Big week for the New Orleans Saints. They got OTAs. They are practicing right now. We can't see them until Thursday. Hint, hint. That might be what our next podcast is going to be about, our observations from
Spoiler alert.
Saints OTA number 3, but number 1 we can get to. But today we want to touch on some other topics. It's a topic y'all may be interested in fact, I know you're going to be interested in because every time we do this topic, we get a lot of response. But first things first, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. You know, I'm excited to get out to OTAs tomorrow.
Me too.
I get to go out there and, you know, we know what the talk's going to be about. It's the first time that Shough, Haener, and Rattler will all be in one place with cameras there to film it. So, you know what all the talk tomorrow will be about. But there's a lot of other interesting things that could potentially happen for us, day 1 of OTAs, for them, day 3 of OTAs. So I'm excited to see it.
And look, dude, I'm a football guy.
Exactly.
I like watching football. I like watching practices. I like talking to the guys after. I like just being around football. And as fun as it is to talk about these moves, that move, salary cap, at some point you have to just get to the tangible part of football. And this is the first opportunity we'll have to do so with the entire team, and I'm thoroughly excited for it. So OTAs should be fun. You mentioned it. OTAs will be the entire team. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I believe all 4 quarterbacks will be there, and Tyler Shough, Spencer Rattler, Jake Haener, and Hunter Deckers. Is that correct? Yes, out of Iowa State. So, so for today, we're going to focus on, I mentioned this on Monday, how we talked to Spencer Rattler at the golf tournament, Saints Hall of Fame golf tournament on Monday, and I look, he's got another one of those quarterback vibe guys. Just there's an ease around these guys, and you pick up on right away. So that's where we wanted to go with the big picture, because Spencer Rattler, look, I mean, he's a competitor. It's his second year. People are writing him off. He said, no, I'm still here. So that's why we wanted to go with the big picture here today.
No doubt. I think it helps a lot, just with the speed of everything, understanding, you know, what you're going to see week in, week out, what the prep takes. So just want to take that all up to another level and just keep honing my craft and keep getting better.
All right, so that's Spencer Rattler. Confident, not cocky, understanding the situation. He's a guy. He's been through. He caught a lot of heat last year. Has a lot of support from the fan base. It's an opportunity ahead of him. Derek Carr is not here. The guy penciled in ahead of him, or people think maybe penciled in ahead of him, is a guy that has not played a game. And the truth of the matter is, he does have the most experience of anyone on the roster in terms of actual starts in an NFL game. He hasn't won a game yet. Hadn't really come close to winning a game in terms of just 4 quarters of play, but he has certainly, he does have the experience you would want. Not you would want, but he does have the most experience in the quarterback room for the Saints.
Yeah, you know, and Spencer Rattler, this is a topic I've been excited for. This is a topic I know a lot of our listeners have been excited for, because the Spencer Rattler fan base has always been a big one, a vocal one.
They've come at us a lot.
Right. So, you know, as we get to the big picture topic, the big question that a lot of you are wondering, the big picture topic that's going to carry the Saints through the offseason, that quarterback battle. Who's going to be the starter? And in this case, can Spencer Rattler be the one to win that job?
Yeah. So let me just say, yes, he can. Of course he can. Of course he's going to be taken seriously. Of course you can't come into a season with the Saints quarterback room as currently is and not at least give a legitimate amount of attention and respect to the guy that has the most starts of anyone in that room, as we mentioned. So, of course, Spencer Rattler can win the job. The one thing we don't know, you know, we saw him play last year, but the one thing we don't know is how much has he taken that leap from year 1 to year 2? because that is a big leap. That rookie year is a long year. There is a lot to learn. You are learning on the fly, and there really is no break from post-draft into your professional career as you get closer and closer to the start. So that is an advantage that he has over Tyler Shough. Let's look at the numbers from last year. 1,317 yards, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 57% completion percentage, 70.4 rating, 40.3 QBR. Look, they don't jump off the page. And look, I would say his play mirrored that. It wasn't like it was any kind of deceiving stat. It wasn't like, there were a bunch of drops or something where he should have more or he should have a higher completion percentage. I think, would you agree that his play pretty much mirrored that stat line? It did. So I think that his play mirrored that stat line. I think it's a situation where he had good stretches of football. Second quarter against Tampa Bay, they had the lead going into the locker room. It kind of fell apart in the second half because I think he got figured out a little bit, as did the Saints' offenses a lot last year when it came to Clint Kubiak. Played well second half against Washington, but remember, he didn't start that game. He got inserted into that game. But still, you can't rule that out. They came a 2-point conversion away from upsetting Washington and Jaden Daniels. And then, of course, the first half against Tampa Bay in the season finale. There was a point in that game where I felt like Spencer Rattler is the best player on the field right now. But one cannot discount the lack of consistency, the inability to play a full four-quarter game for Spencer Rattler, regardless of the fact that he was a rookie or not. So let me just say this. When it comes to Spencer Rattler, he absolutely can win this job. But let me also say this. He absolutely is not going to get the benefit of the doubt if it's a tie between he and Tyler Shough. The jump ball is going to the 6'5" guy that the Saints coaching staff pinpointed as the guy worthy of the highest draft pick since Archie Manning 5 decades ago. That's just a fact. However, this is big. Tyler Shough will not be handed the job. You can call him the favorite. Perfectly fine, perfectly reasonable, probably something that I would agree with. However, you're a new head coach. You're a young head coach. You are in a room with a significant amount of veterans that are like 2 years younger than you. I mean, Demario Davis is legitimately like a year and a half younger than Kellen Moore. Yeah. Cam Jordan, Taysom Hill, all those guys. So the quickest way to lose credibility with those guys, which of course filters down to the younger guys, is playing a player for reasons outside of football. So if it is clear, that's true, and we will be able to see this, if it is clear that Spencer Rattler is outplaying Tyler Shough, it is clear Spencer Rattler has a grasp on the offense quicker than Tyler Shough, and it is clear that when it translates into the game, that Rattler is the guy most ready to play week 1. Notice I didn't say week 18, but week 1, then I think he'll have an opportunity. But I don't know if that's going to happen. I still, as we sit here right now, truly believe that at some point, could be early. Look, early in the process, Rattler may be ahead. But I think at some point, the guy they drafted will start showing enough in his play to warrant the opportunity to start on the football field, probably in time for week 1. What about you?
Can Spencer Rattler win the job? Yes, he can. There's a lot of things that can happen. Mm-hmm. Now, if the question was, do I think Spencer Rattler will win the job? No, I do not. And I'm going to, That's So Raven, this real quick, look into the future and tell you what some of the comments under this podcast are going to say. Oh, Spencer Rattler, he played with so many injuries last year. Oh, he was a rookie last year. Oh, you guys are being too hard on Spencer Rattler. There's a lot of excuses that come when we start talking about Spencer Rattler. Yes, Rattler was dealing with injuries. Rattler was playing because of injuries. Exactly. If it wasn't because of an injury to Derek Carr, Rattler would have been on the bench. So injuries is what got Rattler in the game. And despite playing with injured players, he did play with Alvin Kamara, multiple games with Alvin Kamara. He played with Chris Olave. He played with Rashid Shaheed, Taysom Hill, both starting tight ends in Jawan Johnson and Foster Moreau. So he did get a good amount of time with certain starters on the team. He played with Cesar Ruiz. So, yes, he did deal with injuries, but it's not as bad as everybody would like you to believe. Yes, he was a rookie last year. He was a rookie drafted in the 5th round. The thought that Spencer Rattler was going to come to the city and save the Saints, that was a crazy thought to begin with because he was not drafted to do that. He was drafted to be a depth player that if something were to happen to your starter, maybe he could come in and play well. And you guys are being too hard on him. We're talking about an industry in professional sports. We're talking about a sport where only 32 people can hold this job? Starting quarterback in the NFL. There's only going to be 32 of them. So are we being hard on him? Sure, because he's trying to be the 0.0001% of human beings that are doing that job, starting quarterback in the NFL. So I think I've heard enough of the excuses when it comes to Spencer Rattler. He's got to take a step forward from last year. 4 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, and he also fumbled 5 times. That's not an acceptable stat line for a starting quarterback, no matter the circumstances. He made bad decisions last year. If you go back, and I want you guys to look at, we can't show the video on YouTube. If you're watching on Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment, you're seeing it. Look at some of the throws he made. The interception against Tampa, he went deep to Rashid Shaheed. In double coverage, he underthrew that pass from a clean pocket. That's not injuries. That's not, you know, all of the excuses that they make. That's a bad decision. Later in that game, he throws an interception on the sideline because he was late and inaccurate on the throw. That's not offensive line, a lot of the excuses that they try to make. You look at the pick he made against Green Bay. That's one of those, what did you even see type throws. And that was they were very comfortable rolling him out of the pocket. They rolled him out of the pocket. He didn't have anybody in his face. He made a very questionable throw against Green Bay. It got intercepted. He got picked off against the Raiders, threw it 4 feet over somebody's head who was 1 yard away from the line of scrimmage. And then the last throw he made against the Raiders, once again in a clean pocket, another one of those, what did you see on that plays? What were you reading? So yes, he had some good moments. He played well in the second half against Washington. He played well in the first half against Tampa Bay. He made that cool jump throw against Green Bay in a game that they got shut out. So sure, I'm sure you can point to some good moments from Rattler, but it wasn't consistent enough for you to look at this guy and say, this is our starting quarterback. This is the guy who we're trusting with the keys to the car. And for Rattler to win this job, he's got to make a big year from year 1 to year 2, because the reality is he was not good enough in year 1. That's why the record was 0-7 in the games that he played. He's got to take a step forward. He's got to cut down on the turnovers. He's got to cut down on the bad decisions. And we've got to see the little slivers of good play that we saw. We've got to see that more consistently.
And he's got to make a big enough leap to bypass the guy they drafted in the second round to get this. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard. And I'll just say this, when I watched Rattler, objectively now, a couple things. Struggled against the blitz, so when the blitz came, and you gotta figure out where the read goes when you get the blitz, struggle with that, and eye level dropped. But also, just when you watch him, his play, and you try to envision, for instance, when you, like the New England Patriots last year, Drake May, you look at his stat line, it's probably not great. They didn't win a lot of games. I think they won 2 or 3 games with him as a starter. But you're like, okay, that's a future starter. There's no doubt about that. The ceiling is high. When I watch Spencer Rattler, my God's honest truth, vision for him as a player is, I think he can be a really good backup in the NFL. So that's where I think, based off what we saw last year, I think he's going to eventually settle in for most of his career. Now, in saying that, I still think there's an opportunity here for him because of what is in front of him. It's not a 13-year veteran in Derek Carr. It is a rookie. And regardless of how much I like Tyler Shough, or you may like Tyler Shough, or whatever the case may be, not all rookies learn as fast as you may think. And sometimes this could be a situation where I believe, but I think this is a possibility, where Shough finishes the season, but he may not start the season because he just may not be ready. So there's all those factors are in play. And the question I have, and we're never going to know this, but probably we'll know it based off decisions that they make, is how close does the gap need to be for Shough to be like, okay, for them to be like, we got to roll with the rookie. We drafted him to do it. While Spencer may be a little bit ahead of him, we feel like he's got the higher upside. And where is that threshold need to be met by Tyler Shough? And does he pass him up in training camp? So I think this is going to be, for as challenging of a season as I think it's going to be, that storyline is going to be an incredible storyline to follow. It's going to give us something to really watch. It's like the Jameis and Taysom battle a few years ago, where I was charting every single throw. I might do the same this year. So I think all in all, it's going to be a competitive race because while Shough has the blessing of the coaching staff and call it the prototype size, arm, mobility, all that stuff, Rattler does have experience, and it's going to be very curious, very interesting to watch that all play out because you can't fake it. The tape don't lie, and more importantly, the veterans that see the tape ain't going to lie either.
That's true, and if you're Rattler, you just brought it up, I don't think it can be close. I think you have to win this job far and beyond because we both like UFC. And you know in UFC, if you're watching a championship fight and it's close, and it goes to decision after 5 rounds,
where's it going?
The champion is almost always retaining that.
You got to beat the champ.
You got to go above and beyond and either make that decision indisputable or you got to knock him out or make him tap if you want to beat the champion. There's a lot of politics involved in this job. If it's close, it's going to the guy who they invested the highest pick in a quarterback in 5 decades. You know, we saw it last year in camp. If you talk to almost anybody who went to Saints training camp, Saints OTAs, whatever, they will tell you that Jake Haener outperformed Spencer Rattler. You were there. You saw it.
Yeah.
When the season started and we got the depth chart, it was Jake Haener who was QB2, and it was Spencer Rattler who was a healthy scratch because the coaching staff looked at it and said, Jake Haener outperformed Spencer Rattler in training camp. But when the moment came for somebody to start, it was Spencer Rattler who stepped in. Why did Rattler step in? Not because he outperformed Haener at camp, because we saw camp. He did not do that. Not because he outperformed Haener at practice, because frankly, neither of them were getting a lot of practice reps because the starting quarterback in Derek Carr was getting 9 out of 10 practice reps. It was because Clint Kubiak is the one who drafted Spencer Rattler. Pete Carmichael was the one who drafted Jake Haener. They had a decision to make. It was close between the two. And the guy who the offensive coordinator drafted is the one who got the benefit of the doubt and got the job. So now you look at it this way, Kellen Moore had no parts in drafting Jake Haener. He had no parts in drafting Spencer Rattler, but he had a heavy hand as the former quarterback. His first decision in regards to quarterback
major decision
was Tyler Shough. He has attached his name and his reputation to a degree to Tyler Shough. And we've talked about it in former podcasts. He doesn't have a lot of time to prove himself, because next year, if the Saints are bad, they may be in the quarterback conversation again. So Tyler Shough has 17 games to prove it. This job is Tyler Shough's to lose. If Rattler wants to take this job, he's got to take a big step from year one, like I've said earlier, and he's got to leave it in no doubt. When you look at these 2 quarterbacks in camp, that guy is way better than that guy. We got to roll with Rattler.
And the great thing is, you'll be able to tell. You'll be able to tell.
Yeah.
The tape's going to tell a story. The tape's going to tell a story. And I'm glad you brought up Haener, because obviously he's become the forgotten guy a little bit. They brought in Hunter Deckers, and maybe that's even a battle for number 3.
Right.
But I said this on a show I was on earlier. I want to bring this up again, because I think it's a worthy topic to explore. It's a brand new offense with a brand new coaching staff. So all 3 quarterbacks, Haener year 3, Rattler year 2, Shough year 1, Deckers year 1, they're all learning at the same time, the new offense. So some of the early days and some of the days in the dog days of training camp, provided Haener gets to training camp, because you just never know. I really don't want to see him take 4 quarterbacks to training camp. I really don't. Hopefully they'll whittle that down. But if Haener is able to get to training camp, and maybe even sooner, maybe even minicamp, I am telling you that there will come a practice or practices where we come back and we do this podcast, and I will say, objectively, I cannot lie, Jake Haener was the best quarterback on the field. That is the reputation of Jake Haener, because he is the guy that practices. He is the ultimate practice player, and it feels like he's the guy that catches on to new systems quickly enough and is a very quick learner, which translates well on the practice field, but ultimately it just doesn't translate to the game time, which is a little bit of a. It's still disappointing, because when Haener played that Washington game, I was disappointed, because I thought for sure, okay, this was his opportunity. I thought for sure he was a little bit further along, a little more seasoned, and I thought his knowledge of the system and him being a smart guy would have translated a little bit better on the field. It did not happen. But I know what my eyes told me in training camp. In the training camp before that, when he was a rookie, there were days we came back like, we got to pay attention to Jake Haener. And I guarantee you that will happen again. Jake Haener is not going to be a starter for the Saints this year. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But don't be surprised if multiple days during training camp, if he's here, we're saying, and not just us, other media members that are out there watching, just saying, man, Jake Cannard looking pretty good right now. That's what it is.
That's true, and I wouldn't rule out the possibility that he does play some snaps next year. I mean, let's say something happens to Tyler Shough or whoever starts. That QB, just like QB1 isn't a lock, QB2 isn't a lock either. And it's very rare that you see it. But we cover Tulane a lot down here too. Take you back about a year. Ty Thompson, a 4-star from Oregon, transfers to Tulane to play quarterback. Kai Horton, the guy who was behind Michael Pratt.
Yep.
It looks like it's a battle between those two for QB1. And Darian Mensah, the redshirt freshman from California who nobody was looking at, QB3 by far, outperforms them in camp and rises to QB1. He starts all season for Tulane. He plays pretty well. Now, do I think Jake Haener will rise up the depth chart and start? No, I do not. But can he rise up the depth chart and be QB2 and be your backup? Can Kellen Moore, who I would assume is coming in with a blank slate, seeing that he didn't choose either of these guys in Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener, if Kellen Moore gets to practice and looks at it and makes the same decision that Clint Kubiak and Dennis Allen made and say, judging from training camp, judging from practice, I like Jake Haener a little better than Spencer Rattler.
Yeah.
And there's no bias towards Rattler to make Rattler jump up when the time comes. Maybe Jake Haener can still win the quarterback 2 job because, you know, we saw a lot from Rattler last year. We saw him play substantial time in 7 games to say, look, we saw the guy play. We don't see a starting quarterback right now. Jake Haener, we didn't necessarily see that. Now, he was disappointing in his one start against Washington. I think he got pulled a little too quick. You know, we can make that argument.
Had the coaching staff that drafted him started him, they probably would have got 4 quarters in that game.
Exactly.
But the coaching staff that didn't draft him, they were quick to pull him.
Yeah, they pulled him a bit quick, seeing that, you know, Rattler had struggled early in the season and they didn't pull him. But Haener did look good in the second half against the Chargers. He did score the only touchdown in the Dome when Denver came and Sean Payton and the Broncos blew him out on Thursday night. Jake Haener did get in and score a touchdown. So I don't think Jake Haener will touch the QB1 job, but I'm not ruling him out for the backup quarterback job. So where if something does happen to the starter, Jake Haener would once again be the guy.
No, it's a good point because Haener at his best was an in-game relief pitcher.
Yeah.
You know, he came in the LA game. I think he threw a touchdown pass in the LA game. I know he threw a touchdown pass in the Denver game. What other game was he in?
He played in the Giants game.
Well, that was
he wasn't asked to do much.
He
played in the Chiefs game. He wasn't asked to do much.
So he did do a couple things in game relief that was okay, and that will be interesting because you know last year they felt like in game QB2 it was better to have Haener, but when it came down to QB1 when Carr went down they went with Rattler. How do they mix and match that this year? How do they flow that this year? And you know, last year it was a little bit of a weird vibe because they were trying to split reps between Rattler and Haener. I don't know if this new coaching staff views it that way. I think a lot will be sorted out through training camp. That's why I think you're not going to see a veteran on this team at all until they get all these. They want to get all these reps to these young guys, as many as possible. And it's also why I guess Hunter Dekkers, they saw something in him, which I think you have to take seriously with Kellen Moore because he got rookie mini camp, got it. Now you're going to go and you got to split the reps 4 ways. I don't know how they're going to do it at OTAs or in mini camp. But I hope that 4 for the offseason is one thing, but you got to have 3 in training camp because last year it was so awkward to have Nathan Peterman and they're trying to figure out like the last 2 or 3 reps of a team period. So I think all that is certainly going to be ironed out, and I think it's certainly something to really watch. But the dynamics of this quarterback room is very interesting because, there's a favorite, but the favorite has never played a game. Yeah, there's a guy that's got experience, but that guy's experience has never won a game. Yes, there's another guy who's been there for 3 years, but the one time he got a start, he looked like a UFL player or an XFL player, let's be honest. So a lot of dynamics there, and I think it's going to be fun to watch for us, just kind of decipher what's going to happen. But I think if you ask around the league, the perception of the quarterback room, probably not the greatest perception of the Saints quarterback room right now.
Yeah, it might be the worst perception in the league because nobody who's won a game is, you know, in competition to be the starter. And I'm interested to see this because this is also going to be the first quarterback battle for Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore, when he took over in Dallas, we knew Dak was the starter. When he went to LA with the Chargers, we knew Justin Herbert was the starter. There was no question Jalen Hurts was going to be the guy you send out there when he went to Philly. But Kellen Moore is also a former quarterback. He's also a guy who was going crazy at Boise State and came into the NFL And he's taken part in plenty of quarterback battles, whether it was to try and be the starter, whether it was to be QB2. So he's somebody who can really get into the mind of these quarterbacks and know what they're thinking about, know what they're going through in a tough time like this for all four guys. So I'm interested to see kind of how Kellen Moore approaches the first real quarterback battle of his career.
And I'll tell you what I'm be looking for. Who takes the first snap?
Yes.
I mean, who takes the first snap?
I almost think it has to be Rattler.
I think it probably is going to be Rattler.
Yeah, because
I think Rattler's going to take the first snap of OTAs.
Technically, he was QB1 when the season ended.
He's the closest thing to the incumbent that they have. I've been asked a bunch, what are you going to look for? And I've been kind of covering myself saying everything, but maybe that's the first thing I'm going to look for is who's taking the first snap at quarterback when we're able to see. Because I remember the year Taysom and Jameis went at it, they competed. The first practice, it was Taysom, and I remember tweeting that out, and it got huge because like, oh, okay, well, this may be something. So we obviously know who ended up winning that battle, but that's just something to watch. I wouldn't be surprised if Kellen Moore honors sort of the experience factor and rolls with Rattler first, but that's going to be something to watch when we get out there at OTAs on Thursday.
I think it'd be a bigger story if Shough gets the first snap because, I mean, Rattler was QB1 when the season ended. You draft Shough in day one that the media see, you throw him out there and say, all right, go ahead and get the first team reps.
And I wondered how much, because Kellen said something about we're going to do some 7-on-7s. Doesn't sound like they're doing a whole lot of 11-on-11 OTAs, but we'll find out for sure on Thursday. We got a few seconds left here. Why don't we just get out of here? All right, for Andre Johnson Jr., I am Sean Fazende. We'll catch you guys next time on Overtime.